Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, April the 4th, and you might be able to guess, but it is unfortunately a very gray, cloudy, overcast day, and in fact there was snow earlier today. Yes, very disappointed to look out the window and go, there's white stuff falling from the sky. Now, it's not like it came to stay. The roads are a little wet. It's not really here, but it was just very disappointing to see snow falling today, April the 4th. It's technically not necessarily uncommon where I live, but I would like snow to be done at the end of March, but apparently the weather doesn't necessarily listen to me. Today is Easter Sunday. So happy Easter to everyone. If you are of the Christian faith, happy Easter, he is risen. If you are of the Jewish faith, happy Passover. Passover is ending today at sundown. And I thought I should maybe be inclusive, so I should look up all the things that were potentially being celebrated today, April the 4th. And so welcome to the magic of the Google. According to the Google, all of the following are being celebrated today: National School Librarian Day, National Vitamin C Day, National Walk Around Things Day, Jeep 4x4 Day, National Hug a News Person Day, which in the current situation I would say please do it virtually unless they're part of your bubble or your anyway, whatever. Geologists Day, National Chicken Cordon Bleu Day, International Carrot Cake Day, Plum Pudding Day, which I think is actually wrong because I think of plum pudding as being a Christmas dessert, but that could just be me, and National Baked Ham with Pineapple Day. So I hope that that covers most of you, and if you celebrate none of those things, happy April the 4th. I hope you're having a wonderful day. All right, that's the greeting. Lots to talk about today. I'm expecting this is going to be a lengthy video, so sorry about that, but you can always choose how much you want to watch. If you are a new viewer to my channel, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. If you are a returning viewer, thank you for coming back and spending some time with me as well. I truly do appreciate everyone who watches these videos, likes, subscribes, and the comments, like all of that stuff. It is truly appreciated. Only had one question. Well, it was really not really a question. It was a comment from the lovely Rachel Q last week, who was like, why do you have to show houses to me that I then want? Because I like houses too, and as I said in my comment, I'm helping. Upside, the houses that I showed last week are not limited edition. They're not likely to go out of print anytime soon, so you know, if you have to wait to buy them because you're doing Stitch from Stash, you can wait. They'll be there. And again, the light's going funny. I think it's because there's a window over here. Anyway, we'll just get through this. All right, and with that, we're going to do the stitching up front, or at least most of the stitching. If you've read the topic for today, you'll know that there's one piece of stitching that we're going to do at the very end because it's going to be part of the topic. But with that, let's get into it. All right, so even though last week's video was entitled March Wrap Up, don't forget it was March Wrap Up-ish, my big toe March Wrap Up-ish, because technically, as we all know, there were 3 more days left to go in March that were available for me to stitch. So my March project was my big toe, the work of Christmas. I don't have a good setup. There we go. That's how we're going to do that. So this is really where this got to. So I finished all of this motif, finished that last little section up here that I was missing the last time. Came over here, completed all of this motif over here, and that's where I called it a day. So not bad progress, you know, it's my line every time. I really wish I had gotten more done, but you know, that's life. But I can give you some statistics for this. So I did my math, and so the calculation is here. Out of one skein of Weeks Dye Works, I got approximately 1,270, maybe a couple more, stitches in this one. This motif here used almost a full skein, but not quite a full skein, so I didn't quite have the good comparative that I was looking for. But that is all I have left of the skein for this one. And so the number of stitches in that one, and the counting the stitches is a little bit harder, which is why I'm starting to think I might need to get Pattern Keeper. That one was just a little bit over 1,200 stitches. So in my head, what I'm keeping track of is I'm saying for me, for my stitching style, doing 2 strands of thread over 2 strands of floss over 2 threads on 28 count even weave, a skein of Weeks Dye Works, and again on these two I actually used the loop method because it was not really variegated at all, not enough that I felt that it warranted crossing each one as I went along. So I did do the loop method. And again, when you're doing something where it's one color for the entire motif, you do get some efficiencies. It's not like, you know, if I were having to do these flower pots all over everywhere, I think my thread usage would go down a little bit because I was having to start and stop more frequently. But again, for me, it's a nice little factoid because, you know, I always try to go like, how much do I really get out of something? And if I have to estimate, like some of those Etsy patterns that I like that are monochromatic, they will give you the total number of stitches in the chart. And then I always go like, so how much floss am I going to need? At least now I have, and so that's why it was important to me to like do that experiment. And I have written these numbers, written these down. I've written them down in my X Stitch app. Okay, I've recorded them in my X Stitch app because I think I will remember that I've done this experiment on this particular chart, which means in my journal side of that app, it will have this recorded, so I can always go like, oh man, what's that stitch number that I think I can get out of, you know, whatever, and I will have it recorded so that I can go back, because we all know a week from now I am not going to remember what that number is. But anyway, so there we go. So this is, to the best of my knowledge, this is the last time you're going to see the work of Christmas in 2021. March project not complete, but it's going away because it's April. Now, I'm going to be really mean. I'm actually not going to tell you what my April project is. We'll talk about it a bit more next week. I am going to, however, show you where I've gotten to on this one. I have not stitched on this today, so this is just what I've accomplished in the first few days of April. Actually, I don't want to use this blue anymore. Let's do this one. All right, so I'm going to show you where I got to, and then I'm going to let you guys guess if you know what my project is. So this is my April project, focus piece for the month of April. It was a new start for me, started it on April the 1st, and that's how much I've gotten started on that. So very happy with my start. I so far so good. Check back next week because there will be more done on it, and we'll talk more about it next week. I know I've got Well, we'll see. I've got some friends who I laugh because I keep going like, just tell me what your new project is. And I keep going, wait and watch the video. And they go, you're so mean. Anyway, so it will be interesting. I think they'll both be able to figure out which one this is, but we'll see. I might show it and they'll go, oh my goodness, I don't know what that is. But some of you may not know what it is. I think some of you will know what it is. But that is my new start for April. I know, new start, new project, and the shortest part of this entire video yet. Okay. And with that, we're going to move on to the never-ending nativity. The Marmec nativity moved up to the top, working on the Bethlehem star. So as usual, I know it's my line. So what did I get done? Okay, so as I said last week, now that I had finished all of the outlining here, so for the first three rays that are coming from the star, so I did this first ray here. I'm going to pan out because I freaked myself out because in my head this was symmetrical and my beams were not lining up. So I was having a little bit of a fit. I was like, oh my goodness, what happens if this entire angel is off? And I was like, I'm screw that. Well, anyway, I got myself quite worked up and then really sat down and looked at the chart and went, certainly I haven't checked the other beams, but the first beam is not symmetrical. This beam is actually 4 stitches shorter than this beam. And I don't like that. So in my great wisdom, I have, I'm going to add 4 more rows to this one over here. I've actually done part of it. I just have one of the colors left to go, but you know, that color is going to get used in this next beam here. So I figured when I do that, I would start with the one over here and then keep going over here. But now I have to check these remaining beams because again, it just, yeah. Surprisingly, you would think that with something that is as wide as this is, that I wouldn't notice, but I did notice. And I figured if I could look at it and like just go, that doesn't look right. They don't look even. I should probably make sure they were even because if for whatever reason this does not get covered up by the frame, I would always probably look at it and go like, So I am making them, whether the pattern says it or not, I am making my beams symmetrical. So yeah, so that slowed me down because I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what was going on and if anything was off and lining everything up, and anyway, whatever. Solved the problem. I'm fixing this. So I did the beam, Glorious Krynic, and started filling in, you know, this color here and over here. There is more. So this entire middle section here needs to be filled in, and there is more. I've got another, maybe it's up here. It's up here. There's more of that. So my next, so I'm going to finish filling in with all of this color because when that is done, that color is done. I don't ever have to bring that color out again. It is not used anywhere else in this particular angel. So at that point, I will have, I know I keep saying another color done. It's not quite. I know there's that one missing X up here, but in my head, I'm going 2 of the colors for this angel will be completed. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot. So I would say like this, I divide the angel into 3. So I say like that's 1/3 of the angel, you know, the angel part up here with the wings because it gets finickier. There's more color changes. There's more Krynic. There's wings, etc., etc. That's part 2. And then there's a big swath of fabric down at the bottom, which would probably if I brought this out. So there's that. So 1, 2, 3. That's how I'm dividing the angel up in my head, where I go like, if I got all of this completed, I would say I had 1/3 of the angel. If I got this completed, I would say 2/3, and this is now the order that I'm going to do them in. Wait for it, anybody's guess. But there's still quite a bit left to go on this, not to mention adding the beads. Now, I think at the end the beads will not actually take me that long. So, and again, now that we are in April and Lent is over, I will have more time to devote to both of my projects in April. So both the Never Ending Nativity and my new start for April. So hopefully progress will be made on that. Let's move this back over here. Okay. Let's talk Stashquisitions. This is actually going to be not terribly interesting, and I did reference this last week. That, as I said, I freaked myself out, probably unnecessarily, but freaked myself out towards the end of 2020 and ordered all of the treasures that I needed. Now, I showed you the Mirabilia Nora Corbett bead packs that I ordered, but I did order individual beads that I needed for some of the other patterns, and it wasn't like 1 or 2. Anyway, so here is my, now I'm not going to haul them out individually, just go, it's a bag of treasures. Yes, I'm not taking them out of the bag is a little bit crunchy, etc., but this is the bag of other treasures that I got, so that I feel like my Mirabilia collection is, as far as I'm concerned, reasonably complete. So that in a moment's notice, if I needed to go and start a new Mirabilia, my treasures would be ready. I feel like I'm turning into Gollum from Lord of the Rings. My precious! Anyway, I'm not going Gollum on you. They're treasures. Okay. So that's easy. Big bunch of treasures. I am doling out my Stashquisitions a little bit every week. I do have a friend who is going like, I really miss, when you started your year of stitching from Stash, I miss you showing Stashquisitions. And so in honor of her and to help bring some light to her life, when I do have Stashquisitions, I am trying to dole them out over a number of weeks for her benefit. So there's that. So that brings us to my Stitch from Stash report for the month of March. Now, I am behind. I should have already put this into the group. So while this video is uploading, I will be going into my Facebook group. So if you're new here, I am doing Stitch from Stash. I am participating in a very specific Stitch from Stash Facebook group. So they have their own rules. There are multiple Facebook groups that are doing this. There's one specific one that I'm participating in, and the link to the Facebook group will be in the notes below. How anybody chooses to do Stitch from Stash is entirely up to them. That was just the choice that I made for me. So here is my report for the month of March 2021 for Stitch from Stash. So I had a carry forward balance of $70.80, because up until the beginning of March I was doing very well. My monthly budget for March is $25. Unfortunately, as I showed you a couple of weeks ago, I had a little bit of an accidental expenditure. Still don't regret it. I still think it was a good choice. It messed with the numbers, so I spent $129 getting all of those silks and the fabric that I showed you. I still think they're lovely. I'm still glad I have them. But that means I am ending the month of March in the hole. I am at negative $33.20. So, and again, For the group that I am participating in, they run it in sort of 2 chunks, January through June and July through December. So as long as I behave myself, even if I finished nothing else between now and June, I would still end up back in the black. Hopefully the never-ending nativity will get done before June. That would be really lovely. Heaven help me if it doesn't, but best laid plans. And in fact, I had a friend who found something on the lovely internet and was tempting me with something, and was very tempted, was sorely tempted, and in fact said, "We're like, don't put your order in till I have a chance to look and get back to you." But I toughed it out. I paused. I thought. I looked at my 2021 stitching plan. I looked at my 2022, or the beginning of my 2022 stitching plan. Man, that's a lot of 2s in there. But anyway, and went, you don't need this. You won't be using it anytime soon. How big is your stash? You're going to be fine. And very successfully said no. So, stitch from stash helped. Tempted. Bucked up and said no. So I did not order. That won't be coming. It'll be fine. All right. Okay. Free chart. So somebody else pointed this out, and again, I don't remember. To them, they felt this was a new free chart from Twin Peak Primitives, and I don't remember it, and I hadn't downloaded it. So if it's new, here it is. If it's old, sorry, I forgot, but it's a free chart. So this is from Twin Peak Primitives. This is called Welcome. I will put this in, I will put the link to the Twin Peak Primitives page. Ooh, that's a lot of P's. Lots of 2s and lots of P's. Anyway, in case you want to download this. And then I'm just going to say this again. Not that I'm stitching it. Not that I have any plans of stitching it in 2021 at all. But I love what's happening in the Facebook group. So this is from the Victoria Sampler Facebook group, which I will link in the notes below. They are doing a year-long stitch along with a free chart that comes out piecemeal over the course of the month. Sometimes it's 3. March it actually turned into 4. When I originally talked about this, I think I talked about it in January, and I said they were taking the charts down at the end of the month, so you had to make sure that you got your chart and had downloaded it before you hit the end of the month, and they took it off. They have since come back and said, nope, we've changed our minds. We are going to leave the charts up all year. So you can go in at any point in time and download the charts. And again, because I checked this morning, so I went in this morning and confirmed that everything is there for January, February, March. All of the charts are there. April has come out so far. April looks great. I'm very excited. And the really great thing about being a part of that Facebook group is you get to see all the different variations. So this is a stitch along where they give you the concept of colors, but they don't give you specific names. And really, I think it's a great opportunity to use up some of, the weird remaining threads that you've got in your stash, because I'm not usually very good about trying to do that. So I think this particular one, once I start to do it, it will be a great opportunity for that. And again, it's me, so when is that opportunity going to come? Check back later. But in the meantime, I am faithfully downloading the charts, and I printed out a couple of the examples of people. So these are not my stitching. These are people in the group who have posted their progress to date. So this is January through March of a couple of people's their colorways. So this is interesting to me because they're consistently using sort of house colors from here to there. And again, for me, this is why I have a hard time with these mystery stitch alongs, because until I see what the entire thing looks like, how am I supposed to know if I want all the houses to be the same color? Because if I'm trying to use up some threads for my stash, then I would need to make sure I had enough to do them. And this is why I don't like the mystery. I need to see the whole thing. But, so this is one version of it. And there's lots and lots of different versions in the Facebook group. I chose this one because this is clearly somebody else's color version. And again, how you choose to do them is up to you. It's one of the best parts about watching this occur in the Facebook group, because people are doing all sorts of different versions and colors and adding things and changing things, and I love that part. I love seeing the creativity, which is also great for people like me who are really terrible about doing a sal on a timely basis, is you get to see all these people do these wonderful things and change things and add and colors and all that kind of stuff. And then at the end, in whatever year I start to do it in, I can go back and I can look at these pictures and go, ooh, look at that. Look what they did. Ooh, I should remember this. And in some cases, I'm saving down some photos of things where I into the folder on my computer where I'm storing these charts, so that when I go to start this in, you know, who knows what year that is, that I have these references, you know, I'm storing them by month. So I go, when I go to do January, there's a bunch of pictures stored in there where I can go like, ooh, look at these. And by then, all of them will come out and I can decide whether I like them. And people will have done other things, and that will be great. All right. Sorry, I'm just looking here to see all the things over here. All right. And with that, that brings us to our topic for this week, which is, let's talk It's Easter, aka Lent Wrap Up. So as a refresher, so the piece that I have been working on for Lent, which started back in the middle of February, is Jerusalem by Thea Gouverneur. And I was limiting myself to the stitching time. So the goal was to stitch on it every day for a minimum of 30 minutes and a maximum of an hour. I did not too bad. Not perfect, but not too bad. Usually if I didn't get it in, it's because I was going over. Did this as a center start, which means this entire time I've worked on this building here, which is the Church of All Nations. And it was interesting because because I knew Lent was wrapping up and this piece is going away, I actually went and looked it up on Wikipedia and, you know, again, went back and read some of the history of the church. And anyway, the Church of All Nations, it's an interesting read. So if you're interested in all, feel free to go to Wikipedia, look up the Church of All Nations, you can read about it. But, so I'm going to show you where I got to on my ginormous scroll rod, because this is not a small project. So here it comes. There we go. So I'm very happy with my progress. And I have done my hour today. And part of my hour for today, I actually made sure I went up and put the cross at the top of the church. It's not quite done. There's about another 7 stitches in 3 different colors. So that'll come later because I just didn't feel like doing it. So there's a lot of things that I learned by doing this project for this Lent season. So Lent last year, same thing. I did a Lent project last year as well, but I did it in a different manner. So the things that I learned about doing a Lent project is, 1, I like having a Lent project. So that's good. Pro. Con, I do not like being time limited. So the concept of only working on it for 30 to 60 minutes was annoying. And even, you know, when I was working on it yesterday, I was like, if I knew I was sitting down and I was stitching for 2 hours, I would do something different than what I'm doing. Because normally what I was doing was I was sitting down saying, you have a time limit, you only have X amount of time. Try to find the biggest chunks of stitching that you can do and you can get knocked off. And again, we talked about this last week. That's why these center parts down here are not filled in, because there's way too many color changes, and it, you know, it would probably take me, you know, more than one day to get all of these column bits filled in, just because with all the color changes. So I've learned that if I'm going to do something like that, limiting my time to 30 to 60 minutes is, that's not good for me. So I will say again, so for part of my 2022, I am planning on having a Lent project. I am not planning on limiting my time on my Lent project during the season of Lent. Now, next year, Lent falls differently. So Lent starts fairly early March and goes to the middle of April, so that changes things as well. So factoring all those things into my 2022 stitching plan. Yes, I'm working on that. So planning on having a Lent project, not planning on not being time limited next year. Because I'm very happy. I'm very happy with my progress. I think it's, you know, it was nice starting to put some of these, you know, the purples in up here and all that kind of stuff, and it's coming together. I like it. When I started this, I think I commented because of, you know, being a center start and how this looked when I started, I was like going, oh my goodness, you know, hence that's why there's arrows on these sides. Because when I started, this was so indistinguishable with what I was doing that I was like, you are going to have no clue what's going on here. Now, clearly, do I need the arrows anymore? Of course not, because there's distinct shape. So upside, this has distinct shape. Downside, so let's say that we're, you know, 40 some hours into this lovely project. So it is a little finicky, and we're going to talk about that in a bit. So here are the other things that I've learned about this particular project. And I've commented about this before. So one, this came as a kit. So the threads came mostly pre-sorted onto these thread cards. So I'm going to show you how the thread cards look now at the end of stitching them for Lent. So here's card 1. Here's card 2. Here's card 3. And what this has done for me is I go, I hate these darn cards. I hate these darn cards. This is why thread drops and all that stuff, I never thought they were going to work for me, because I have done smaller kits earlier in my stitching history and I didn't like these concepts then. Doing it for this, I'm even more adamant. If it works for you, that is fantastic. Do what works for you. This is your hobby. The only person that has to be happy with how you're doing it is you. For me, I hate these. Okay, hate's a really strong word. I'm going to tone that back. I greatly dislike these. I don't like having to do it this. I don't like having to do it this way. And the look of these, you know, again, when you try to go and resort these, and you know, I'm doing the Ginger Gerald method, so that as I'm using a color, you know, some of them have lots of things. So I'm just taking sort of one bit of the 6 strands and putting them over to the other side, which says to me you've used this color somewhere. But they're, anyway, if I just sit here, I will fit anyway. They're going away. We're at the end of Lent. Now, I will also say I don't have a better solution right now for this project for this. I know I could put them into floss away bags, but the reason why I don't want to put them in floss away bags is the next part of the thing that I don't particularly like about this chart. Okay, that's not true. I love the end product. I think the end product is going to be fantastic. It's some aspects of the charting and the kit that make me less thrilled with it. All right, so I talked about this before. So one of the things that I greatly dislike about this chart is the symbols that they use on this chart. And so I'm going to give you some examples. So there's one example. That's 3 different symbols. There's this one, which was part of what I was working on this week. There's these symbols. But when you put them on tiny paper and you use them next to each other, the funny thing about our brains is that they actually adapt. And so, like, you may have seen those ones where, like, there's a paragraph where you read the paragraph and every word is spelled incorrectly. And usually, you know, there's a high percentage of people who can read the paragraph flawlessly and not slow down at all. Because our brains interpret it. So the problem is with these symbols, like these 2 next to each other, like if you aren't really seriously paying attention, your eye can just go, it's the one with the circle with the triangle on its side, without going, no, is it the circle with the triangle on its side facing left? Or is it the one with the circle with the triangle on its side facing right? They also have symbols like this. Sorry, yeah, drawing it slowly here. So again, like technically on their own, they're not a horrible symbol, but when you use this symbol and this symbol within, you know, a 10 by 10 square on your chart, it's very simple to look down at your chart and, you know, sort of go, they're all this or they're all that. And in fact, when I was working on it this week, I have discovered that I've done 4 stitches incorrectly. I'm not taking them out for this reason, that the symbols were just too close and clearly I wasn't paying enough attention stitching at night, probably because I was going, you're time limited, you're time limited. You know, this. So my example is, yes, I stitched 4 stitches of this with this color. Now, I can see it right now. I'm not taking it out. I think it will be easy for me if I ever get to that point to be able to find it again. At this point, I'm quite sure I'm not taking it out. But at some point, as that church gets filled in, if I think it stands out too much, I may revisit it. But for now, I'm leaving it alone, saying, tough, you're just going to have to survive without it. And the other thing is, by the time, again, let's not forget, this is not a small project. Don't forget, here's like the gracious, you know, scroll rod for this thing. You know, I'm sorry, can you see the 4 stitches that are incorrect? Probably not. So my expectation again is that it's not going to stand out incorrectly enough that it's going to need to be fixed. But looking at it going like, oh man, I went, it's because it's the difference between the regular C and the backwards C that are all used in the same section. And the other problem with when you're using symbols like this, and you're using a card system like this with 3 sets of cards, so when you find a new symbol and you go, okay, how in the world on the 3 sets of cards do you easily find these symbols? You don't. Every time I pick a symbol, I have to sit down and go through all the cards to try and find it, while I'm very closely holding my chart the correct direction to make sure that they line up the right way, right? Because if you get the chart and you get it upside down, these two, you're gonna get the wrong color. Anyway, so this is one where, and again, so stitching through this, now this is going away for 2021. My expectation is this is not coming out again in 2021. This is going away into storage. It's making, I'm going to have to check into Pattern Keeper, I think. Now, I bought this as a paper chart because it came as a kit. So I'd have to scan the chart, I'd have to upload it into Pattern Keeper and see if it came through. Now, I'm part of a Pattern Keeper Facebook group, even though I don't have Pattern Keeper yet. So I watch as people sort of say when they have issues and what's causing the issues and how to get around them and all that kind of stuff. So even if I uploaded it, I'm not guaranteed that it would necessarily work the way I want it to. But again, you know, even stitching this week, there was a color that I did, and I did my thing, started, finished it, was moving on, was stitching a different color, came back and went, oh nuts, you missed 2. So now there are 2 random spot stitches on that particular chart in that color because I missed them as I was coming through. And again, I think this also factors into because I was time limited, and I always felt that when I was sitting down that I needed to be efficient and I needed to get stuff done because I only had X amount of time, that factored in as well. Hence, when I work on this project again, I will not be giving myself a time limit. I won't ever, I don't think I'm ever going to do that again. Again, I've done it for the season of Lent. I've given myself ample opportunity to practice this and get better at it. And my answer is, I don't like it. So, positives coming out of that. I now know something that I won't be continuing to do. Nice. So there we go. So things that I've learned in Lent, again, I like the project. I like how much progress I made given the time limitation. I think it's going to be fantastic however long it takes from now to get it done. You know, there's aspects of the Thea Gouverneur chart that annoy me greatly. You know, again, I don't like the kit. You know, and that I had to buy it as a kit, that, you know, that it came this way. Like if it came with the quite frankly, if it came with a symbol, well, the symbols are still weird. You know, give me something recognizable. Don't make them so interchangeable. Anyway, those are the things I don't like. But anyway, so that is my Lent wrap up. Lessons learned, things achieved. It's going away for the rest of 2021. It might come out to play in 2022. And so when you come back next week, we will, so we'll be down to 2 projects because we will only have the Never Ending Nativity and my April New Start. So my challenge to you is in the comments down below, put in the comments down below if you think you know what my April New Start is. And then next week we'll find out if you're right. And with that, I hope everybody is staying safe and staying healthy. I hope you've had a good week. I hope you're going to have a good week. Despite the grayness of today, apparently the next couple of days it's going to go back to being sunny and a much nicer temperature, which is great because that means I'll get to stitch in my sunroom, and we'll talk about that later. But yeah, you know, me, sun always makes me happy. But with that, have a great week. I look forward to seeing you next week. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section down below. Always happy to entertain all of those. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.